guys, welcome back to Math Mechanics. On this episode we're dealing with a 1998 Honda Civic 4-cylinder. It's got some leaks underneath the tranny. The customer complained that she thought it was transmission fluid. Upon further diagnosis, we found that it is her distributor shaft. We're going to replace the O-ring on the bottom and the shaft seal down in there. I'll show you guys what's going on there, and obviously I've already disassembled this quite a bit, but we're doing the valve cover gasket, we're doing the distributor seal gaskets, and we're doing the AC service, and we're also doing, well, already did the cabin air filters, which on this Honda are kind of a pain in the ass. You got to take out the whole glove box. So what we're doing here is we have the valve cover off, the gaskets off. We'll be replacing those here shortly. We have the gaskets for the spark plugs right there, and the valve covers goes inside this line obviously, and then distributor caps right there. I also sanded those, as you can see, just so that you get a little bit better contact. And yeah, so right now, alright guys, and to seal this distributor, all it is the O-ring on this car. So let's grab our little kit here. It comes with 2 extra seals, but I believe that's for the V6 model. Let me set you up here, show you what I'm talking about. So the kit comes with all 3, but on this there's just a bearing in the center and you can't remove it. So we're going to take this seal, and to put it on, we're going to take our little pick, pry out this old one. Oh, she's really hard, so she's just probably gonna come breaking out of there. There you go, see? Super hard, very old. Nice new malleable. Slide it on over. There you go. That's it. My recommendation is to take a little bit of oil and go around the rim of the O-ring so that you don't pinch it upon installation. So let me show you that real quick. So just take a little bit of oil from the valve cover, and we're just going to put a little bit around the rim and go to reinstall. Now this goes with the connector up, and remember, set up where your connector was, which you have your 2 lines right there. Okay. And we're going to go right back into place. So as you can see, that's why I did a body one too. Onto the stem, so that they would match. As you can see, I've got one here for one here, and then one here to here. Alright, let's go mount that in. Set you guys up right here. It's got 2 bolts that connect it. One down here. These are both 12 millimeters. Take a deep socket and extension so that you can reach. Get them both snug before you tighten it up with the socket wrench. Snug them up. This and her valve cover gasket were the main sources of the leaks. Okay, now we're going to want to clean the surface of the valve cover gasket. Clean it as well as you can. You are going to have to put a little bit of silicone in 4 places on the gasket. Show you those 4 places momentarily. Make sure that anything you clean, because there's going to be some kind of dirt and grime over here, don't get it in the valves. Be very careful not to get it in the valves. Okay, and since she's getting plugs done as well, we're going to take the spark plugs out now. This is a 5/8 spark plug socket. Somebody did not use anti-seize on a couple of these. First 2 came out okay. These 2 not so much. They were just stuck in the beginning. Let's hope neither of them are cross-threaded. This one feels like it might be. Let's hope not. I think it was just in there with a little bit of moisture. I think it's alright. Alright, let's grab our magnet. Okay, wasn't all that bad. It was running a little bit lean, it looks like. If you can see that right there. Just a little lean. A little bit lean on that one too. That one's pretty saturated with oil. Wow. Okay. So we got all 4 plugs out. And now we're going to put 4 new plugs in. Try not to drop any of them, because if you do hit that little electrode gap, basically the tip right here, if you do drop it, it will change the gap. You don't want to do that. So just be as careful as possible when sliding those in. That's what she said. All right. Start that off slow so that I don't cross thread. So as you can see, start off slow and grab. Then you can just torque her in. As for the valve cover gasket set, we do have these, which are for the bolts, these which are for the spark plug bores, and then the actual gasket itself. Get you guys a picture of this. Hammer. Knock out the remaining bolts and gaskets if you haven't already. Give it a little quick clean. We're rubbing that off. Okay, now that we have these bolts, you'll see these little gaskets on here. They are all destroyed. They're so hard that I can't get them off, so we're gonna have to cut them off. Yeah, see, that rubber's really old. So just take off those. Got a bag of new ones here. You know what, before we do that, I'll do that last so we can actually get the gasket down first. So you're gonna wanna put these on, and these go taper down, okay? And that's simply so that the spark plug hole, the inlet basically, can just very easily go over those. So what you're going to do is take the gasket and just with your fingers push it into place. It's not very hard. It doesn't take a crazy amount of force unless you get it crooked like I just did. And then just do that for all four of them. Get them nice and snug in there. Okay, that's 2. 3. And finally, we have 4. Okay, that's all those 4. Then you can lay your gasket in, and as I said, there are a couple spots where it's going to need silicone. So the edge that has this tab will go towards this screw over here, this thread, as you put it. Okay, just fit it all in there. And then I'll go grab the gasket sealer and I'll show you exactly where you want to put 4 drops of gasket sealer. Okay. So you're going to put it in the corners. I like to put it on the inside / outside. So kind of just right there on the edge and then bring it down a little bit. Don't need much. As you can see, my gasket sealer's been through the ringer. Okay, just 4 dabs. Okay. Then you're going to want to flip this over while holding it in certain spots so that it doesn't move. And then get your right side in first. And then make sure that it goes around all the spark plug inlets. There we go. And then I like to take a flashlight, make sure I don't see any gasket popping out anywhere. Therefore, I can verify beforehand that there won't be any leaks. Alright, now let's get the bolts on with their new gaskets. Okay. So you take a bolt, take the new gasket, and just prop it right in. It's going to be a little bit firm, of course, because they are new. One way to do it is to put it in the valve cover and just tap it until you can get it all the way through. This is a long one, so it's going to go in the front. On the edge. No, sorry, on the edges. These are always fun, trying to find the thread down below. There we go. Once you feel it, you'll know you're going right in there. Again, we got to take the old gasket off first. If they're really hard, just rip them off. Otherwise, you can always cut them off. Alright guys, welcome back, and we're still working on the 94 Honda Accord 4-cylinder. We are doing a Schrader valve replacement for the AC system, and in that we're also going to vacuum the system and recharge it. That's basically an AC service in its, most basic form. So here we got the manifold set. This is your high pressure, your low pressure. You want to make sure that these do have pressures. The low is a bit high right now, probably because it was just running and it's hot outside. The high you want between, 90 at the lowest, but usually around 100 to 120. So it's right in that range. Usually I like to see this around 30 to 70 at the highest in that range, so it is running high. So we connected the low port to the low, which is usually coming straight off the compressor, and in this case you can see there's the compressor, there's the line, there's the low. The high is almost always off the accumulator or near the condenser, so we also connected that. We are pushing down the valve so that we get a reading on here. Okay, and what we're going to want to do now is we're going to want to vacuum it so that we can evacuate it. So as you look at those, you'll see once I hook it up to the vacuum that it will start to go down in pressure. And that's simply because I'm pulling it out, evacuating it, so that we can remove all of the Freon in the system and take the Schrader valves out safely so that we do not contaminate the environment. Okay, ready guys? We're going to turn on the vacuum. So as you can see, the pressures are starting to lower rapidly. So typically when you do an AC system, you want this to be around 30 inches of vacuum, and then you want to close the valves and make certain that it stays that way. So before we do that, we're going to just vacuum everything out, turn it. Okay, so now that we're all vacuumed out, We are going to remove the low side. And the high side port. And we know these Schraders are bad because that's what I heard last time. You could hear it leaking. A lot of times you'll see it bubbling. So take your Schrader valve remover tool. That's the vacuum coming out. So what happens when you vacuum it, you'll have vacuum escaping. Just take the high and the low side valve out. They're very small. I'll show you what they look like in just a sec. Sometimes they do get stuck. It's rather frustrating. Just pin it to the side a little bit, then you can remove it. You can see how old that one is. See if I can get a close-up on that. So you can see how black it is. See that? Show you what the other one looks like at the same time. See? Now I'll show you also what the new ones look like. See, the new ones are nice and shiny. None of that corrosion on it at all. So we're going to install those in the same way that we removed the old ones. Trying to set you guys up here to be able to see. Okay. Just drop the valve in, take your tool, tighten it to snug. You don't need to over tighten it. Put one in your high side. Tighten that one as well. Again, just a snug. Okay. And now we're going to vacuum the system again. After putting the high and low sides right back on, of course. Turning down the valves. Putting your yellow middle port. That's for the line that goes to both of the other lines. Turn that onto the vacuum. Turn the vacuum on. You can see it obviously very quickly does it because they're not there's nothing inside the system. So make sure the valves are open. And you know, good practice is to let this sit for about 10 minutes. You want 30 inches of vacuum, like I said. And at a certain point, you can close the high because it's one circle of a unit, basically. It's a circuit. So once you vacuumed out the high, you can close that. And then, like I said, just let the low vacuum out for about 10 minutes, and I'll be right back with you guys. Alright, so we've been vacuuming for about 10 minutes, so we're going to close the low side, close the high side, make sure it's closed. We'll take off this yellow port. And, you know, a little secret, not a secret, but good practice, take the can, take your unit, And if you have the right can, it'll work. This one it won't, because my stem is too large, as you can see, and this hole is too small. So now we'll take off both low and high side. And what we're going to do is, with the car off, and only on the low side. You can close the high side, you won't be filling on that. Just fill it on the low side. Just put a little bit in there before you start the car. It will max out at a certain point where it won't actually accept anymore, because the low side will actually be full. And also, if you ever want to know, there should be a tag that says how much Freon your car will take. So this one, recommended charge max is 22.9 ounces. So this can we're working with is 20 ounces. So we can fill this plus a little bit more and we should be good. So as you can see, the gauge is not really going to help us yet, because it's going to say filled, because basically we're filling only one side. So once it says filled, it means that the entire low side with the car off is filled. So now what we're going to do is we're going to start the vehicle, and that will cycle the low side to the high side, and then we can fill the entire system. See how now it says low? So like I said, 22.9 ounces for this vehicle. So we're going to be using this entire can. So you can just keep filling this entire can. At a certain point it's good to hold them upside down. Some of these do leak though, so you want to be careful. See? As it cycles, it'll say that it's low. Keep filling. Again, it cycles. So when it starts to get low in the can, I like to turn it upside down. It makes it fill a lot quicker. Remember, this is a fluid inside the can. See, as it cycles, it's still showing a little low. It's still about 80 degrees outside here. Completely filled. Okay, so this can is empty. to our other can. And remember, we're only doing a couple ounces of this one. I'd say that's pretty good. Alright, and the official way to check the temperature is with a temperature gauge that goes into the center vent, and that should be on full blast. I'll show you what that looks like. That's like this bad boy. So it's got a needle, goes into the center vent, and I'll show you. It's nice and cold in here. We should be getting around 40 degrees or so, 40 to 45. And that is the green little marker you see there. So let's see how low this bad boy gets. And by the way, the AC does work best with the recirculation on and at around 2,000 RPMs. So I'm going to hop in the driver's seat, and I'm going to put it up to about 2,000 RPM and see if we can get this a little bit colder. Alright, take a look at that, guys. Dropping. That's just because I have the top at about 2,000 RPM. The compressor just runs better. So we're sitting at about 45, 47 degrees. It's pretty good, especially with it being as hot as it is here in California. I'd say that's pretty decent. We're not going to get it much better than that. The car is 20 years old. We're not going to put any more in because if you put too much, you reach it max pressure. When it gets to a certain temperature, the pressure switch will say that it needs to shut off the AC because it's too hot out and it's gaining too much pressure. So it'll shut it off to save the compressor, because you can actually destroy the compressor in that way. So the AC service was a success. The caps are back on the high side and the low side. We'll take the manifold, we'll put it back away, and that's a wrap, guys. So today we sealed the valve cover gasket, the distributor, we put a new seal on, stopped all the leaks, and we serviced the AC. Alright, have a good one, guys. We'll see you on the next episode. Like and subscribe if you like the video.